Aquí en el canal Parque Telemedellin, donde tenemos un cierre maravilloso. Para mí es un honor tener la presencia de John Acquaviva, que es cofundador de Beatport y es una leyenda del tecno mundial, de la música electrónica. He tenido la fortuna de verlo muchísimas veces en vivo, aquí y afuera, y es un honor que nos acompañe hoy en una charla muy relajada, muy nutritiva, muy especial, y todos absolutamente privilegiados de poder vivir este momento, y también que quede registrado en las cámaras, porque pues todo este contenido lo vamos a poder tener a la posteridad. Así que démosle un gran aplauso a John Acquaviva. Y le damos un aplauso también y gracias a Tomás Botero, que nos va a introducir en una conversación con él bien interesante. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Vamos a empezar entonces de una vez con la conversación con John. Vamos a estar pasando como entre inglés y español, ¿cierto? Algunas cosas pues en inglés, otras en español. Vamos a tener una sección de preguntas igual del público, ¿cierto? Eventualmente, igual vamos a estar recorriendo toda la carrera de John y ya empezaremos pues como con preguntas un poco más actuales, ¿cierto? La primera pregunta que tenemos es, ¿qué y por qué empezaste en la música?
Wow. Antes que responda, es un placer. Colombia es muy importante para mí. Me encanta el mundo latino. Yo nací en Italia y mi cultura es latino. Tengo mucha suerte que mi familia emigramos en Canadá y no Venezuela o Argentina, por ejemplo. Me voy en la escuela en Canadá. So I'm very lucky to go to school in Canada, but my Latin culture, I come from a small village, so my heart is still Latin, and when I come to a country, it's special for me because I have, the Italians, we're all the same, family, so the emotion, and that's where the rhythm comes. So I think rhythm, el ritmo viene de la cultura. Para mí es una cosa latina, ¿no? Todas las culturas tienes música es la parte, pero es parte de mi cultura, y ritmo es importante. También italiano, comida también. Estuve comprando vinilos de pequeñito, comprando 45s, 7-inch records, y cuando compra los vinilos a la escuela, cuando hacemos una fiesta, toca la música por mis amigos. Cuando eres muy joven y continúa como eso.
Entonces eras como el DJ de la fiesta en ese momento. You were like the DJ of the party, like you put the tracks.
The school party when you're 10 years old, but that's good. And so going to school, when I went to university, I have a degree. Lucky, soy el primero en mi generación de que tengo la oportunidad de que me voy a universidad, lo primero, pero no lo utiliza. I didn't use my education in mathematics and statistics because I was also the top DJ in my city near Toronto. And
so you studied mathematics, right, and physics and
in university, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I had very good grades, so I think many of my teachers said I used to be smart when I was young, but I like to party. So,
como para resumir un poco, sorry to interrupt, que él también estudió pues matemáticas y estadística, cierto, en la universidad, pero que seguía siendo el DJ número uno pues de la ciudad, entonces prefirió irse por ahí y no practicar mucho la matemática.
So I have to say that I was saying with a few friends at lunch, some people go to a party for different reasons. I was a nerd. I loved to play music, and I stayed awake because I couldn't sleep, and the next day I woke up and I did stuff. So I stayed awake for different reasons, but I like to play music for people.
Awesome. Bueno, ¿cómo fue vivir el inicio del techno en Detroit? That they used to tell me that you used to like go a lot to Detroit, to the parties in Detroit, and you saw all the beginning of techno, you know?
Yeah, so Toronto was a rich city. I grew up in the middle of Toronto and Detroit. Detroit was a poor city, but it had heart, Sometimes rich cities, when you have all the money in the world, life is easy. But Detroit was difficult. But I was playing the music of Juan Atkins. I was playing a lot of electro in the 80s had a different meaning. But Juan Atkins was I was a fan of many producers. And Cybertron, was like Kraftwerk. And then techno music came from Detroit. And techno, like Kraftwerk, believing in a computer, believing in a pocket calculator, was for me the future. I mean, here we are now. So when I heard this music, I'm like, this is my life, And my friends were listening to rock and roll. And now I like rock and roll because we can talk later about electronic music and losing its feeling. But then the future was about machines. It's a different problem now. So techno believed in technology. I'm all in.
Entonces disfrutaba mucho de la tecnología. Él dice pues que le atrajo mucho la tecnología de Detroit. Habla de algo muy interesante que dice como la dificultad en ciertos países o ciudades como Detroit, que era una ciudad pobre, genera pues como la emoción o genera como una vibra en la gente de crear algo nuevo, y dice pues que ahí sale como esa energía del tecno que lo atrae tanto a él, y creer en la tecnología, ¿cierto? Dice él pues molestando en una calculadora, hacer música con una pequeña calculadora. Okay, so you start as a DJ, you were #1 DJ right in your city, you go to Detroit, you go to these cities, you started hearing these new technologies, these new sounds, and then you found a label, right? You just go and you say like, okay, I'm not only going to be an artist, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so it's funny because now everyone's very kind. I'm old enough that people give me a lot of credit for some history, but when I was younger, I was like everyone, just like when we're all passionate, we're fans. I was a fan. I was the best super fan. I bought all the records. I was a good DJ, but I didn't make anything. As DJ started making records, I'm like, hey, I think I can do this. And when I went to Detroit, and I met Richie Houghton, 1989, my first visit. And then I met Blake Baxter, I met Derek May. The next 3 visits, I met Kevin Saunderson, Juan Atkins, and in my eyes, they were famous, but they're amazing. They're people. Sometimes you meet someone who's famous and they're an asshole, and sometimes you meet someone who's famous and they're good people. Lucky, the people that I admired, most of them were very good people.
You were also a fan of theirs, right? Of them.
I used to be a super fan, and then, I started doing my own thing, because if you have a passion, you can be a super fan, you could be super passionate, but do something, do something. And it's like the journey starts with, there's many sayings, with the first step. So making the first record, and I decided, I remember talking with Derek a lot, and we connect. So Derek, very passionate, but I'm like, I'm the same age as Derek and Juan and Kevin, and we have privately, like we're all family, and even publicly, we all respect each other, but we have different families, And so with Rich, I had that energy, but he didn't do anything, so I'm like, we need to start, And if you want to translate, but then I can say more about that.
Bueno, lo que él dice ahí primero que todo es que antes de ser un artista o de ser un empresario musical era un fan, y era un fan número 1, y que cada vez que viajaba a Detroit conocía a sus fans, a sus ídolos, perdón, y él decía que le impresionaba como todos eran muy humildes y eran muy queridos con él. Él dice que él pensaba que las superestrellas eran pues como muy engreídos o difíciles de tratar, y ahí conoció a Richie, ¿sí o qué? Y con él se entendió muy bien y empezó pues como a trabajar juntos, y él mismo empezó a decir como, bueno, listo, hagamos algo más, no seamos solo DJs, creemos algo más grande, tenemos que apoyar este movimiento, tenemos que hacer como algo grande con esto, no dejarlo solamente en música pues como el día a día. Entonces él dice que todos son una familia, y que él considera que uno primero empieza siendo fan, después se vuelve de pronto un artista, y después debería evolucionar en convertirse pues como en un empresario para apoyar también la industria.
Very important what you said. So when you're a fan, you have to respect your community, where you come from, but then do something yourself. If you love food or music, how can you respect where you come from, but put your name on it? not easy, but if you try 1, 2, 3 times, you start to find your identity. Super important.
Él dice que algo de lo más importante que puede enseñarnos hoy es que no es solo ser fan, sino también aportar a la comunidad y respetar de dónde viene la comunidad artísticamente, ya sea, incluso él habla de, pues no solo de música, sino de comida, y no solamente, pues como digamos, si te gusta la comida, crear platos nuevos, ponerle tu sello a lo que tú hagas.
So I'll keep with the question, and I don't think I've ever said it because we're recording, because I want a copy of the recording. So the origins of +8 are kind of interesting, I think. So when I was DJing, I DJed at the same club for 8 years. The music was a lot slower then. So when I became a top national DJ in 1982, and you play the same club, and the music was very slow because disco had died. On the weekends was soul and funk. On the Monday night, I played new music, electronic music like Depeche Mode and New Order. So the first electro-pop music for a younger generation, which was really the origins, of electronic music, and drum machines. Everything was super expensive, but there were people making amazing music. So on the weekends, I would get bored, and I started to play the dub mixes like many DJs, not the vocals. And I started playing them faster and faster and faster, and I was mixing my music at +8. Because even then, I was in my mid-20s, and my younger friends, obviously when you're younger, you have more energy. So we're playing music faster, because many of the songs in the clubs were 114, 120 BPM. I wanted to play 130 because I had energy, not 150 like some techno people. And and in those days, you never did flyers. The world has changed now, It's not only super DJs, but we have brands. But in those days, it was a club, and for those who knew, there was a DJ. And you went to the club, and the DJ was cool. It was all underground. And it was people, a room, and a good DJ. And the people didn't watch me. They danced with each other. It was very strange now, And I played, one of the earliest flyers I ever did was maybe 1988. And I used to call myself Acquaviva +8. Because house music was jack, 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 jack your body. And my name is Acquaviva, so I called myself Acquaviva +8. And when I heard, before I went to Detroit, I heard a mix from the radio station by a guy called The Wizard. The Wizard was Jeff Mills. And I'm like, wow, he mixes like I do. Or maybe I mix like he does. I used to be technically very good. Now I'm old and boring. But technically, I think I was pretty good. So that's the origins of +8, using a turntable to play music fast and push the limits.
Bueno, él cuenta que el origen de +8, del sello disquero que él hizo, era porque él le gustaba pues como utilizar el +8 para aumentar la velocidad de las canciones. Y él trabajaba las canciones en esa época, eran como en 114, 120. Y tocaba mucho de Depeche Mode y toda la música, porque él dice que se convirtió como en el primer pop electrónico, y a él le gustaba era tocarla rápido, porque decía que entre más la tocaba rápido, más energía sentía en la gente y la gente se emocionaba más. Entonces empezaba a tocar a 130 y así se empezó a reconocer, pues como la gente iba allá, aunque él decía que en esa época no veían al DJ, hoy en día el DJ es una marca, en esa época el DJ estaba escondido y simplemente ponía música. Y él dice que por eso se le puso el nombre de +8 al sello. So you started this label with Richie, right?
Yeah. So it was me, Rich, and Kenny Larkin, because Rich was working with Kenny Larkin and really got along with him. And then we added Dan Bell, who we were Cybersonic. But Rich, I decided to make him my partner, and history shows that I was correct. And we're like brothers. We were together for 10 years, and then we went our own ways. I mean, he's more techno than I am. I'm not dressed very techno. I like colors, But techno was, I was a disco DJ, so techno was my first opportunity to go in the world, and I love it, but it's not my main love. I love everything, I like everything.
Okay, that's cool. Él también habla pues que montó pues como el sello.
You can be too serious, the rock and roll purists, they also wear black. And they look like, well, they're all dead because in the 1950s, everyone wore black jeans and leather jackets. So, a lot of people don't, stick in the 1990s techno. The world moves on, So people like, I heard you play at a rave in the 90s. Why are you playing different music? Because it's not 1990. I'm sorry.
Está cool. Él dice que cada vez se va adaptando pues como a las nuevas generaciones, a la nueva música, que él dice que no le gusta quedarse pues como en el pasado y que le gusta todo tipo de música, ¿cierto? Que no es tan tecno como Richie, sino que trata de ser un poco más diverso y de tocar diferentes géneros. Well, you developed Scratch, right? You developed this new technology.
Well, I didn't develop it. I discovered it, but we believed in technology. Well, I discovered it, and then we worked together to develop it. Yes, that was we discovered it around 2000.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Really quick story is we heard about these guys are like, why do you DJs play vinyls? Well, I mean, vinyls are amazing, the best way to control and so on and so on. I was, had one of the largest vinyl collections of anywhere in the world, and I love vinyl, but when the internet changed the whole world digitally, we had to think, I was thinking, how can we live in a digital world? And when I saw these guys, I went to Holland, I'm like, let me touch it. I'm like, wow, so this vinyl has a special time code and it controls a digital file. This changes everything. And I didn't know it then, but that's what led to Beatport. And Beatport was mostly all very, very good because it brought all of the world together. Right? I'll pause and I'll tell you why, because in the old days, why it was so difficult for people in Colombia or in many countries to get the music.
Total. Él dice que Final Scratch, que fue uno de los, pues, como los desarrollos más importantes que ha tenido él, lo descubrió en Holanda, ¿cierto? Y decidió apostarle a esta nueva tecnología y decidió apostarle porque él creía que el mundo debía empujar más hacia lo digital. Él dice que él ama los discos de vinilo y que tiene una de las colecciones de discos de vinilo más grandes del mundo, pero él en esa época consideraba que era importante incursionar en el mundo digital y abrazar las nuevas tecnologías, y Final Scratch fue el principio, el hecho de que él, pues un tornamesa digital, manejar y manipular un archivo. Y él dice que ese fue el comienzo de Beatport, que esa fue como la pequeña semilla de Beatport, y que ya nos va a contar por qué Beatport fue tan importante.
So, I mean, traveling the world, and I remember, and maybe we can tell some stories of some first visits to Colombia, but, one of my first friends was Alexa, who invited me to play a party. The second party I did was in Medellin, and we did a party in Bogota when Colombia was the country of curfews. I don't know. Everyone was probably very young then, but I remember. But whether it was my friends in Brazil or Argentina, whether it was only a few people, but even Hernan, all my friends were like, it's so hard for me to get music. We fly to Europe, we pay all this money, we go to a shop, and still they don't give a shit about us people from South America. And so I've always been lucky. I was one of the first. When I went to a record shop, if there's 5 records, I may not look arrogant, but people respect me, and I have one of those 5 records because I support the industry, and I was a very successful DJ. So every record shop is going to take care of me, or Sven Fate, or Laurent Garnier, because But what about the new generation? It was very difficult to go to a shop, even if you had money. And if you got it here, the best records would never come here. And they were very expensive, and it took months. So Final Scratch did not become successful until I came together with another group to launch Beatport. And Beatport really brought our community together. I'm not a jealous DJ. Some DJs are jealous because, hey, this is my special mix and fuck you. No, hey, I make money playing other people's records. And if you can mix it better than me, congratulations. Probably not. I'm a good selector. I'm here because I'm a good cook too. So I can cook food better than most people. It's just the way it is because I care and I pay attention. But it doesn't matter. You should have access to cook the food you want, to buy the ingredients, and also the music. I don't care who anyone is. Let's support our community. If someone in the room made a record, don't steal it. Buy them a cup of coffee. Pay €2 on Beatport, because it works this way. And the world is a little bit fucked up because we don't respect, arts and culture. Sometimes a song is impossible. So I confess. I change songs with my friends because we have unlimited rare released edits and stuff. But that's our community supporting. But if someone asks me, I'm going to say who the artist is. Because it's our job to promote our culture and our community. And help try to support and maybe make some money. Because we live in a capitalist world.
Él habla de que cuando tuvo la oportunidad de viajar acá a Latinoamérica, incluso el segundo show que tuvo acá en Colombia fue en Medellín, él dice que le impresionaba mucho lo difícil que era para Latinoamérica conseguir música en esa época, que era casi imposible. Que fuera eso, el hecho les tocaba viajar a Europa, conseguir los mejores discos, y ni así garantizaba que fueran a encontrar los mejores discos. Porque él dice que él tiene la ventaja de que lo respetan mucho en la comunidad, entonces cuando llega una canción nueva, un disco nuevo, a los primeros que se los dan es a él. Entonces él dice como listo, ¿cómo logro que estas nuevas generaciones crezcan? Porque si no crece la cultura, si no crece el movimiento, va a morir. Y si muere con él, pues morimos todos. Entonces él dice que esa fue como el cimiento de Beatport, el hecho de unir a toda la comunidad, de poder tener en internet y que todo el mundo en todas partes del mundo tuviera acceso a todas las canciones. Él dice que hoy en día es muy delicado el hecho de que no se respete el nombre o los artistas que crean las canciones, que hay DJs muy celosos que no dicen quién es el creador de la canción como para tener ellos y tenerlo solo como en su set. Y él dice que eso no debería ser así, que deberíamos antes promover a los artistas nuevos para que crezcan, el movimiento crezca aún más y como dice él, vivimos en un mundo capitalista y podamos generar dinero de esto, ¿cierto?
Yeah, and so when we launched Beatport in 2004, I argued with my partners. When I just said, buy even a stranger a cup of coffee, DJs were paying $10 to $20 for a record. And I'm like, I think that we need to pay $2. No, iTunes charges 99 cents. We're not fucking iTunes. I don't eat at McDonald's, I'm like, sorry. And then at the same time, streaming companies happened. Okay, I listen to Spotify for my old stuff, but Spotify, all you can eat, it's bad for independent artists. If you're an independent artist and you go to Beatport and you sell, even 1,000 downloads and you make $1.50, you made $15,000. You don't make $15,000 unless you're some monkey with some bots playing 1 million streams on Spotify. So Spotify is part of our world, but it's not our community if you're an underground person.
Él dice que tenemos que apoyar mucho a los talentos nuevos y que él considera que en Beatport él cobra 2 euros, por ejemplo, por una canción, porque él dice, esto no es como un McDonald's, no es un all you can eat, eso es arte. ¿Cierto? Y debemos apoyar el arte. Él dice que es muy difícil para los artistas nuevos un Spotify, porque en Spotify tienes 1 millón de visitas y recibes $1,000, $1,500, dependiendo de donde sea el streaming. En cambio en Beatport tienes, digamos, 15,000 visitas o 15,000 descargas o 10,000 descargas y son $10,000. Él dice que eso es un muy buen dinero para un artista emergente. Entonces que por eso él trata de mantener mucho los precios de Beatport, incluso cuando le decían, no, pero es que mira, iTunes cobra 99 centavos, o no, mira, Spotify cobra eso, y él trata de mantenerlo porque dice que hay que apoyar el género, hay que apoyar el movimiento, y hay que apoyar la cultura. Y él habla mucho del arte, de cuidar muchísimo el arte.
And trust your taste. The world we live in, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, because I just understand my reality. We all have our own reality, but if you have underground taste and you then look at, especially this week, Facebook or Instagram, and you're like, wow, everyone's so much more popular than I am. Well, most of this stuff is bullshit because, some people have 100,000 fans. When a promoter who doesn't know me books me, and yeah, I'm an old guy and I'm a piece of history, but for those of you who come tonight, tell me if I'm still good, because it's not about what I did yesterday as a DJ. Am I good? Did you enjoy tonight? But a promoter's like, everyone's so much more famous than you. Well, I'm sorry that I don't cheat on Instagram. I'm sorry I only have, 25,000 followers, because I don't give a shit. Either you book quality or you don't. And this is something we need to get back to. How can we support ourselves? How can we understand if we want to be business, if we want to, have a business, and we want to be independent? So my philosophy when I make fun of McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever, and if you notice, you know, and I noticed this about techno people and wearing brands, you know, like we don't wear brands, you know. My shoes, you don't know, doesn't matter how much they cost, there's no brands. It's not Nike, it's not Adidas, you know. I'm not here to promote anyone other than my culture, which is the independent thought.
Él habla mucho de que hoy en día es muy importante ser independiente, ¿cierto? Y de apoyar y no volverse como una marca. Él se refiere a los zapatos diciendo, ve, yo no vengo acá a promover a Nike, no vengo acá a promover a Adidas, a nada. Es más, no les voy a decir que mis zapatos cuánto cuestan porque no me importa eso. Lo único que me importa es la electrónica. Entonces que cuando habla con promotores, los promotores le dicen, no, pero es que mira, hay otros DJs que tienen más seguidores. Entonces él dice, ve, mira, los 25,000 seguidores que yo tengo, lo que yo tenga son reales. Y son gente que de verdad apoya el arte y que van a ir a mi show porque respetan la música que yo hago. Él lo que trata de decir ahí es que como crean mucho en sus gustos y luchen por la música que a ustedes les gustan, que a ustedes les gusta, porque así es que crean arte. Y también dijo al principio algo muy importante, que ahí es donde salen como los nuevos trendings, ¿cierto? Casi siempre empieza siendo, siempre empiezan por el underground y por gente que encuentra nuevos sonidos y que eso después se vuelve el mainstream del mundo.
So, very important concept for any of you starting a business or trying to make money. If you're different, understand why you're different and try to find people and sure, maybe work for free or cheap one time. But if you're different and you come into a relationship, then how can you start to build value? And what we did, because we weren't, I mean, I can play a session of hits, but it's not what I do. I play my own sound. And that's like the concept of a boutique. So when I go to the boutique, and I'm lucky because I don't have to worry about the price of my shoes, but it doesn't matter. You know, if I find something, I'm going to support it, whether it's 20 euros or, 500 euros, whatever. But you need to support and live that philosophy, because if you're an independent person, and instead of trying to support an independent, but you quickly go to Amazon, or you, in America, go to Walmart or a big shop, you've hurt your community, right? Sometimes it's better to pay an extra dollar, because if you're good at what you do, you will make an extra dollar. And that's what the community is for. You're a good shoemaker, you're a good DJ, you're a good chef. I can't go all the time, but once a month I'm going to support a good chef. This philosophy is important if you want to live in hopefully what will be a better world in this, capitalist world. And that's the creator economy. If you're creative and you have ideas, we need to make money to live in a capitalist world. And that's the struggle. So maybe, it doesn't mean much, but I care, and we don't have to talk about that too much. But if you think that way, you will find your place and hopefully your value in society.
Él habla mucho de ser diferente, ¿cierto? De apoyar. Si a ustedes les gusta algo que dicen, bueno, listo, a mí no me gusta lo que se escucha a todo el mundo, igual luchar por eso, ¿cierto? Y luchar por esa comunidad. Él habla mucho, pues, digamos, hace la comparación de McDonald's y Walmart y dice como, bueno, listo, si a mí me gusta la buena hamburguesa, una vez al mes voy a apoyar las buenas hamburguesas, voy a ir a un buen restaurante de hamburguesas, porque cuando voy a McDonald's o un Walmart, es un dinero que le estoy quitando a mi comunidad. Y estoy evitando que mi comunidad crezca, ¿cierto? Él dice mucho creer en el gusto de cada uno, ¿cierto? Que si ustedes son diferentes, apoyen y si crean en ustedes mismos por ser diferentes y que luchen y van a encontrar su nicho, van a encontrar esa comunidad que va a disfrutar también la música que ustedes hacen. Y ahí es donde van a empezar a generar dinero, y muy buen dinero, dice él.
So maybe I'm too serious. I don't know how many questions you have, but we can also have questions from the crowd, because I feel like I'm too...
Do you want to do like a little question?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a small, lovely crowd. I see some mostly happy faces. Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. No, I mean, I'm happy to,
Sí.
Talk whatever, because I'm always serious. That's why it's always better to listen to me DJ, because sometimes I make people happy, but when I'm speaking, I make people think, so I'm sorry for that.
Él dice que quiere tener una ronda de preguntas. La ronda de preguntas la íbamos a hacer al final, pero no hay lío, podemos hacer dos, ¿cierto? Podemos tener 2 o 3 preguntas, no sé si tengan un micrófono para ellos. Y lo otro que él dijo
really
antes...
anything, I'm happy to tell some stories, but
de una.
those are good, but we're recording, so I'm not going to tell all the stories.
Listo, ¿alguien tiene alguna pregunta para él, para John?
All right, do we give a microphone or...
Sí.
Okay.
I have a mic right here.
It's hot here, these 2 lights, I am like, wow.
It's really hot.
Hello, John. How are you?
Muy bien, gracias. Sorry, when I'm serious, I speak English. Sorry.
I would ask you some questions like,
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, good.
do you think the sounds of the 90s about today people, because you see a lot of songs of beatport, like people are making 90 songs. Do you think it's important about the electronic music for today?
I think I said a little bit about it. You need to know where you come from and respect where you come from and do it your way. I have many productions that are really old school productions, but better quality because of the equipment. So I think that's okay. Living in the past is not. So somewhere in the middle. It's nice to see people, and I think there's a lot of producers like, this is my influence, this is my production, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then the next step is, after you connect with people, you know, show yourself. And it's also a concept, a lot of us go back in the past, whether you're young or old, and there's a marketing concept. Now it's shorter cycles for everything, 5, 10, 20 years. Typically when people are 40 years old, they want to relive their youth when they were 20. So there's always, you know, going back to the 90s or the 2000s, there's always these echoes.
Like these cycles, right?
But it's good. You know, it's good to show your interpretation. An artist often will show, here's my interpretation of this movement. That's good. But then become yourself. Yeah. So, good question and good concept.
Digamos, la pregunta que él hizo es muy bacana porque él dice que hoy en día se utilizan muchos colores o muchas estéticas de los 90, ¿cierto? Dice, hay mucha música, se está reviviendo mucha música de los 90.
Just keep it under 130 BPM. I'm just joking. No rules.
Entonces, lo que dice John es como, está bien, es muy bacano como revivir esas épocas y como decir, como bueno, estas son mis influencias o me gusta mucho el sonido de esta época, pero él dice que algo muy importante que tenemos que tener en cuenta es no vivir en el pasado, ¿cierto? O sea, no repetir el pasado. Si vamos a tomar como colores o ideas o estéticas de la música de antes, hacerlas nuestras. Digamos, él dice que él tiene muchas canciones que tienen mucha influencia vieja, pero utiliza máquinas nuevas, utiliza conceptos nuevos, utiliza pues sonidos nuevos para integrarlos. Entonces algo que él dice muy importante es hacer lo propio, hacer nuestro sonido propio.
There's a really great movie about this, and it's from Medellin. And probably all of you guys know it, but nobody knows about it. But it was a movie done, I don't know, 10 something years ago, Los Nadies.
Los Nadies.
Super amazing movie. And it's done in black and white, funny for the city of color. So it's funny I'm talking to people in Medellin about this movie. But when I watched this movie, there was this young intellectual blonde girl, and she's talking to her mother who made very poor, average decisions. And she's literally reading the poem, Muere lentamente. So if any of you guys know the poem Muere lentamente, without traveling, without talking to strangers, without wearing colors, you die slowly. Muere lentamente. It's attributed to Pablo Neruda, except it's not. It's one of those Latin cultural phenomenons. But that's a very good philosophy, and it was presented in the movie of Medellin because of the archetypes of all the people of the future of this city and this country.
Él dice que él
And culture.
Mucho la película Los Nadie, dice que hay una escena donde la hija está hablando con la mamá, que la mamá toma decisiones muy pobres y le lee un poema, que el poema habla sobre morir lentamente, que si no vivimos pues en colores, que si no vivimos pues como intentando ser nosotros mismos, vamos a morir lentamente.
Not bad for a gringo. Sometimes I know some Latin culture.
That's good. Que a veces que no está mal para un gringo, él también conoce cultura latina. Hay otras preguntas por ahí.
Hey John, how are you?
Okay, good. Is
Hello.
someone noting all the hands? We can talk forever. Okay, yes, sorry.
I just wanted to ask, how was the music scene in Canada when you left for Detroit, and why did you left?
Well, Toronto, Toronto, my friends were making, in the 1980s, over $100,000 a year. When I became the #1 DJ in 1982, my friend, my mentor, was making $2,500 a week in 1982 in Toronto. it was a rich city. Before DJs ever made money, Toronto, Montreal, a little bit in New York were making a lot of money. And I made enough money, because Canada was wealthy, to buy a studio in the 80s. I was good, but I also was in an area that clubbing people paid money. So Detroit was poor, but it had heart. When you have money, sometimes when you're not starving, you don't. But I was inspired by the creativity. I've always been inspired by creative music, all kinds. But when I went to Detroit, I'm like, wow, this is the real shit. And I was inspired by just the passion and the desire and the hunger. You know, I was hungry. I didn't know then, but I'm happy to be in the world. You know, I'm happy to be part of the world instead of being a super fan. I'm still a super fan. I love the world, and but I'm happy to be also a creator.
La pregunta que hizo el compañero también es muy bacana. Él dice que por qué se fue de Toronto hacia Detroit, aunque también dijo que estaba pasando en la escena, ¿cierto? En el momento. Ahorita de pronto podemos profundizar. Pero él dice que cuando él estaba en Toronto, los amigos de él se hacían de $2.500 a la semana. Y que eso es mucha plata, casi $10.000 al mes. Y que eso en esa época era muchísima plata, ¿cierto? Entonces él decía que era una ciudad muy rica, pero sin corazón. Y él dice que Detroit era todo lo opuesto, era una ciudad muy pobre, pero con mucho corazón y con mucha hambre, y que él no sabía el hambre que tenía de cómo crecer y de iniciar su movimiento hasta que fue a Detroit y vio toda esa escena y vio todo el corazón que había como en esa ciudad.
I come from a super poor family. My village was 1,500 people, and really, my mother cleaned hotel rooms, my father worked construction. They still don't speak English, and but you know, that's not the point. I love my family. I respect where I come from. But when I started DJing, I was never poor again, you know. But I'm very good at what I do. With not to be arrogant, I didn't get here by accident. I understand, you know, what I do personally, and also my role. I want to build. You know, I love building, and I respect community.
He also asked what was happening in Toronto at that point.
Yeah,
musically.
Toronto was great parties. You know, people having a good time. The discos were amazing. Like there was a club called Copa. It was like 2,000 people. Amazing. Except
What genres were there?
Really soul and funk. You know, like in the 80s, the older people who still love dance music. I mean, you had bands like everything from SOS Band to you know, like the Funkadelics, Cameo, you know, Kool and the Gang, a lot of just party music, you know. And reggae, Toronto, a big reggae community.
Reggae.
I mean, I've seen bands like Third World and stuff, but anyways, yeah.
Okay, cool. Vamos a seguir con otra pregunta antes de seguir con las
Passing
preguntas.
the mic around, everyone's taking track, okay?
Well, John, when I started to make electronic music, well, I came from other types of music. It was in 2009 or 2010. And I started making punk rock, industrial metal, another kind of music, and I started to transform that to electronics. So when I did that, I saw that Beatport wasn't a place for the new influence people that is making electronic music. Why? Because I saw that the ones that were selling a lot of music were artists that made tech house or commercial techno. And when I started to put my music on that platforms, I was very, very motivated because, wow, I'm gonna be on Beatport. But when I was on Beatport, my first song, never anyone bought that song, because I felt that I was too underground for maybe the public that usually buys music on Beatport. So after that, I found Bandcamp, and I felt that for new musicians that don't come from tech house or commercial types of electronic music, it can be a nice place to buy music, another kind of underground music. and I thought like, why Beatport cannot like change a little bit their policies to reach that kind of public that for the new musicians, that we are influenced by another kind of music. Like for example, I make EBM, industrial techno, but open it to put another kind of sounds and innovate. And well, I would like to find that in Beatport.
Well,
So the question is, do you think that Beatport can be like open it for that kind of musicians on these days? Like maybe we don't have even a real tag to put or type of music, you know? Like we don't have a real.
Lo siento mucho, pero eso es la verdad. So I'm going to answer this politically, but also even truthfully and honestly. So, you know, Beatport was the right place at the right time, and we captured the first digital stars. I don't own Beatport anymore. I sold it 10 years ago. Okay, so I have spiritual influence over the company, but I don't no longer, you know. Even though I'm friends with them, it's not my decision process or argument. You found the right site. Many of my underground friends use Bandcamp. I personally, when I'm not DJing, I don't listen to electronic music. I love post-punk. I love aggressive. I love guitars. I love jazz. You know, electronic music, we can have a whole discussion about how, and so I made money from Beatport, from the progressive DJs. I would never play progressive music. I'm friends with some of these guys. It's not my culture. To me, again, I keep using the metaphor of McDonald's, but it's real. I don't go there. I don't care about pop culture. So when you're independent, where can you find people who are a little bit like you? Sometimes, where do I find, when I met Richie Hawtin, I'm like, wow, we need to travel the world and go to a city and find 50 freaks like us. Not a million fans. I just want to find 50 cool people, you know? And that's where it starts. So when Beatport started, SoundCloud started. SoundCloud was for people who couldn't get money for their songs, to be a little bit rude. But, you know, whether you can give away your song or not, you need to grow up with your community. So each generation, and it's funny, each generation needs to find itself, you know? And so Beatport is the world of electronic music, which we can have a discussion being underground or not. I live in both worlds. You know, I live in Ibiza, which is like Las Vegas, but I do all the underground parties because that's my culture. And people are like, wow, you're lucky to do underground. Well, whether I had money or not, it's what I would do, you know? I've had moments where I've been a pop star, but my choice is always a small restaurant or a small club. So you did the right thing. I'm sorry, but keep doing the right thing. Find someone who, you know, find the few freaks like you know, and then you grow that community. That's what Rich and I did. And now we're like, wow, you know, even Rich is an outsider, but we're still kind of like part of the world, you know. So people kiss our ass, but it's still not, you know.
La pregunta que hace el compañero es muy bacana porque él dice que Beatport normalmente pues como que le da mucho apoyo a los artistas que son como más mainstream en el mundo, ¿cierto? Como a los géneros como no tanto a los géneros underground, sino como a los géneros como más populares a nivel mundial, ¿cierto? Y que quieren los géneros tradicionales, pues como los comunes, como el mainstream.
But it's also the problem with the internet. So if you're underground, all of us, even if we're underground, we search on Google and nobody goes past the top 10 searches, okay? In the old days, if you're underground, you're going to dig and find something who's, you know, different. So even underground people don't support the underground. Hopefully, you know, I don't own shares and I don't care. Fuck Facebook, you know, fuck Instagram. It's highly stressful because, you know, but it kind of worked for pop culture, but it kills the underground, you know. You know, you don't know what to believe. So try to find something that's not like everything else. You know, so go to the smaller sites. It's difficult, but the future of the creative space, and this is not really a heavy business conference that I speak at, the creative space is about, you know, standing up for being different and then having the world discover you. curating special things, and that's how you're going to make your money. So stick to it, because everyone wants to be the same. Everyone does AI that looks at Beatport Top 10 and does 10 more even shittier pop electronic songs that I would never want to play, you know, personally.
Bueno, y para terminar, para los que de pronto no entendieron la pregunta, el compañero dice que él usó Bandcamp y que encontró un mejor lugar, ¿cierto? Para desarrollar ahí su música, para poner su música. Y Y lo que dice John es que eso hay que encontrar nuestro lugar, ¿cierto? Que primero, tener la valentía de ser diferentes, y segundo, encontrar un lugar dentro dentro del mundo. Él dice que él decía, yo no quiero tener 1 millón de gente que me quiera, yo quiero tener 50 peludos que sean igual que yo, igual de locos que yo, y que disfruten la misma música que yo. Pero yo prefiero eso a tener un estadio de 1 millón de personas. Vamos a... ¿Quién sigue en las preguntas? De una.
Okay, yes, you had your hand up from very early. Okay. Yes.
Hi, John. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. My question is, I don't know if you've ever worked with singers, but I myself, for being a singer, I would like to know, because I've seen that around like pop culture music and like DJs nowadays, it is very common for them to find singers to join their songs. And I myself as a singer would like to know, if you were to work with a singer, what would be your criteria to choosing one?
Yeah, see, I like music, so I think most modern singing, especially with plugins, is evil. You know, I listen to blues, I love flamenco, you know, wow. And the singers of flamenco suck, but it comes from the heart. Now with auto-tune, you know, I want to hear your voice, and if it's special, that's even more amazing. But I gravitated to playing more instrumentals, so, but I love vocals. But it's not something I personally do in the studio. I'm not even doing a lot, but again, if someone's an artist, you know, if you're original, you want to find someone who respects that originality, and those are going to be the best, I think, work projects.
Nos falta una pregunta acá, ¿cierto? Sí. La pregunta que acaba de hacer la chica es que busca en un cantante nuevo cuando trabaja. John dice que no trabaja mucho con cantantes, que trabaja mucho instrumental, pero que si cuando trabaja con cantantes o con vocales busca que sea una vocal muy única y que no dependa de plugins como autotune, ¿cierto? Que sea una vocal como que tenga corazón.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thanks for coming here. And well, the lady asked something about singers. I'm a singer too. So it's not the question, but I'm going to take advantage of that to ask you then my question. What if we want to send you our vocals or something like that? Can we do it? Because we would love to do it since you are here, and I know that you love Colombia because I have some friends from Cartagena, Julio Montes, who also know you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he loves you a lot, and he talks all the time about you. Also, Alfonso Padilla, who have experienced many things with you. So in my time, and about her too, what if you want to send you our vocals?
Of course, of course. I'm
Thank you.
not as I used to answer everybody in 24 hours, but but I do. So you can contact me, like, you know, Instagram, or later if you come to the party. I mean, I'm accessible, and just remind me, because I always get back to people and I'll give comments, you know. I'm less of a producer, but again, I really do care, so I keep my promises. I'm not like other people, so.
Perfect. That's the question about her, but
Pleasure.
I wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I would do it.
Absolutely.
And I hope she do it too.
Yeah, no, I'm just, and so don't send me a link of everything you've ever done. So based on whatever you think, you know, I said, you send me your 2 or 3 things that will make you stand out in my mind as an original person, you know, right? Like, so I met people and they send me like something really poppy, or send me like your most interesting work.
Thank you so much.
You know, like then it's, you know, my pleasure.
Thank you. My question is, I know you have experienced many years about a DJ, being a DJ, and you have been a DJ from 90s and 20s, and now also you do it. You are an artist from your soul. I can see it clearly, and that's so nice to me. But I want to know what is the difference between that time and now being an artist as a DJ?
Well, that's a really big question, and I always talk about it in different ways. One way I say it is, until COVID, I DJ'd and partied every weekend of my life, almost. So I have done more than 5,000 national and international gigs. That's a lot. And sometimes, if you look at a photograph of yourself from 2020 and 2000, you see the difference. But if you look in the mirror every day, you don't see the change. So for me, I don't see the change unless I'm talking about a song from a time. So that's the strange answer, the more metaphorical question. I said earlier that a DJ comes from a time, DJs became famous in big cities where people looked for that. They were disconnected, but they would go to the club and they would come together over music and share that weekend over some alcohol and some vitamins, or whatever motivated them to come together. And
is there any difference between that
vitamins
time,
and
that audience in that time
yes,
and now?
Yes. I told you earlier that people didn't look at me because I'm actually really boring to watch. But if you close your eyes, I'm actually still pretty good, I think, in my mind. But so people were not there to celebrate the DJ because clubbing used to be anti-rock and roll. Clubbing is like us and our friends and our DJ friend who's the really good selector. We're going to party and celebrate. And we still do this in homes. But in clubs, it's all rock and roll. You go and you see the stage and the flashing lights and you see someone faking it, pushing a button, jumping up and down, except not mixing music. Or you see, I love young people, like, there's an art to playing a song, but going, you're not doing anything. So I don't do anything. I find really good songs and I play them. So a DJ used to be part of that group, a small group, whether it's 20 people, 200 people, or 2,000 people. And then a DJ became famous. But then the struggle in the last 20 years was DJs versus brands. We were talking about that today, and I've been talking about it all my life. But on the drive over, I was talking with Alexa, who, again, she's a DJ, she's a promoter. So where do you find the balance? I've owned nightclubs. And, as much as, but as a DJ, I want to take as much money as possible. My agent does too. If I don't know the people, it's rock and roll. So now the DJs think they're superstars, except the brands are superstars, and there's still a fight for money. But it's got nothing to do with the original concept of celebration. Is that kind of an answer? I answered it in different ways, in metaphors. But the last one was a bit more realistic. So a lot of DJs think that they're the ones make the people come for them. I was always in a good club. People started coming for me, but the club had good sound and it was the place that people met. And my job was to take it to the next level. But it wasn't about me. And then it became about me, and I started becoming, making more money and became a superstar DJ or whatever, But then the superstar DJs forget where they come from. And this next few years, it's the battle of the brands, El Row doesn't need a superstar DJ, all of the other brands, the clubs in Ibiza don't need a superstar DJ, but the managers are like wanting more money. So there's a big fight, for who's on top.
Para resumir un poco la pregunta, ellos lo que hablan es qué diferencia hay entre ser un DJ antes y ser ahora, o qué diferencia hay entre las audiencias antes, la audiencia antes y la audiencia ahora. Y lo que dice John es que antes no era acerca del DJ, todo giraba alrededor de la fiesta. El DJ ni siquiera se veía, el DJ estaba atrás y él simplemente era una persona que ponía muy buena música. Que a él le tocó la transición cuando el DJ se volvió una marca, cuando el DJ ya se volvió una imagen y ya ni siquiera importaba si tocaba o no tocaba en realidad, o le daba play a un set de hora y media. Ya les importaba más es cómo se viera, qué ropa usara y qué vendía. ¿Sí? O que él dice que eso le pareció muy difícil, que aunque generaba más dinero, pero se empezó a perder todo el arte de la música y todo el concepto inicial que había dentro de ser DJ. Y hoy en día ya es como las luces y ya es un espectáculo muy diferente. Bueno, listo. We're going to keep going with the questions, and at the end we'll do some more audience questions, right? You talked about earlier that you produce for some people, that you produce music yourself, right? How do you work with that? At what stage do you work more? Like, are you in the synthesis area,
Well,
or in the music area?
So really, honestly, I have different motivations than most people. I don't believe in anything, really. I never wanted to be a star. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in heroes. So it was kind of weird. But as a super fan, I had heroes. So it was really weird. I loved music, and I wanted to make music. So I bought a studio. And when I first made the records with Rich and Kenny, I was happy to be an executive producer in a rock and roll sense. You know, I want to go with a band because I have strong feelings and help them with my understanding of the sound, make that sound. Yes, I've written a lot of songs. I've actually made, I think, 300 songs. So, but I was a great DJ, and I played other people's music really well. But as the world started becoming about DJs as a creator, and we're in a creator economy, but even in those days, DJs, the concept of producer took on a new meaning. And you can say that, pause, say that, and then I'll give you more of the story.
Que cuando él empezó, él trabajaba mucho como productor ejecutivo, y cuando hacía música con Richie, él como que trataba de implantar el sonido que tenía en la cabeza y guiar como a las personas con las que trabajaba para llegar a un sonido. Pero él lo que dice es que con el tiempo el concepto de productor cambió, y como estamos en un mundo de creadores, hoy en día hay un concepto muy diferente sobre lo que es un creador o lo que es un productor, y nos va a hablar más al respecto.
So, when the DJ culture exploded, I was famous for techno, but I had friends who were like, I have a discotheque. Let me play your house club. Yeah, but you're techno. Give me a chance. And I turned out to be very successful in the other clubs, and I started playing in Spain, all over, you know, in really good party clubs, house clubs, and I ended up, you know, I was probably top 3 paid as a resident, no matter who came. I was that good. I still am. And when they started, as the DJs started becoming more famous with the DJ Mag 100 and stuff, because I was loyal to my clubs and I was working as a resident every 3 months, or in some cases every month, they would book a more famous DJ on a magazine because they were the trendy ones. And this is when the DJs started making 10, 15, 25,000. So, you know, I was making whatever, 5,000, 8,000 euros, which, you know, I'm not crying. I did okay. That's a lot of money. And so I remember there was a club in Spain. I won't mention the name, but you can figure it out. I was getting 3,000 people every night I played. And they started booking those top 100 DJs, and they would book and these are friends of mine, but they would pay them 25,000 euros, and they would get 1,800 people. So I'm like, excuse me, I'm your resident, but I'm also internationally famous. I get 3,000 people, and you pay these guys 3 times as much as me. Well, you're not famous. So that's when I'm like, okay, fuck the underground, fuck the clubs. I'll show you. I'll become a producer. So I'll pause there, and I'll tell you the rest of the story.
Él dice que cuando él empezó, él era muy fiel a los clubes con los que trabajaba, donde él tocaba, y tocaba a veces 1 mes o 3 meses de residente. Y él cobraba como 8.000 euros, que él no sé qué, él decía que era él dice, es mucha plata, y hoy en día es mucha plata. Pero él dice que cuando empezaron a hacer como esos top 100 de las revistas, de los DJs más famosos, los nuevos DJs, empezaron a traer DJs que les pagaban muchísimo más, ¿cierto? Les pagaban $25.000 y llenaban menos los clubes. Entonces él decía, ¿cómo así? Pues no tiene sentido, yo te lleno más el club, traigo más gente, y esta gente llena menos el club, pero les pagas 3, 4 veces más. Entonces ahí fue donde le dio rabia con el mundo underground, porque decía, me están como discriminando por ser underground, ¿cierto? Porque por yo tocar, pues como por no tocar lo que está mainstream en el mundo. Y ahí fue donde él dijo, a la mierda esto, y voy a ser productor, y nos va a terminar de contar la historia.
So in my mind, fuck techno, fuck house, you know? So, you know, what do I have to do? I mean, like, you know, I had a family, and I'm like, maybe I'll retire. I don't give a shit about music. I don't give a shit about clubs in my mind, because I don't have to ever DJ again in my life, but I like it. I don't need to play a big club, you know. I don't need anything. I don't believe in anything other than beauty and truth, whatever that is. And so it was at that time, so after I split up with Rich, so the first divorce I ever had in my life was with Richie Houghton after 10 years. He's like my brother, but we stopped being business partners. He started Minus, which was minimal music, and minimal was very famous. A young guy called Marco Carolla played there, Magda. He had his family, his children, and I know all these guys, good and bad. They're all like characters, but I'm everyone's older brother or father. And so I can tell you good and bad stories about them all. But we're all family. That's what a family is. And me, I left everyone's family and I went into my own. So I left the clubs, and I went into my own exile. And I started working with interesting people. I met a bunch of interesting artists from Colombia, and I started, I'm like, you guys are lovely guys. People like Julio Montes, Quique Serrano, Alfonso Padilla. And they were maybe not the coolest guys, but they were real. They had heart. And so I just wanted to support real people and do real things, because it's just the other stuff is bullshit for me. And then I also started reaching out to people I played music. So I started my label again, and I started making records. And I've actually had, directly and indirectly with my label and myself, 6 #1 hits on Beatport. And people are like, yeah, but you own Beatport. Well, so did Rich Houghton. With all due respect, I've had more #1s than Rich. He's more iconic. But so when the clubs told me I wasn't famous, I'll show you how to make some hits. And I made some hits. All the underground people are like, wow, you're so commercial. I'm like, fuck you people. What the fuck you want from me? I'm too underground, I'm not underground. I could just show you I can do anything I want. So I went away from those clubs because, well, you're our resident. You should work for cheap. I'm not here to fucking support you if I draw 3 times the amount of people. You have to pay me. Fuck off. Sorry. And then I started Electro House. So for the first year or two, before Dead Mouse and all that, I remember Joel, and Electro House was in the middle, and I did a CD called Back to Basics, which was like, I don't give a shit where all this rock star attitude is. I'm just going to play music I like and have some fun, and that's what I did. And I had a bunch of hits. I tripled my fees, in around 2004. I became a trendy DJ. I was on the DJ list. And all of a sudden, like, this old guy was trendy again. But then I worked with Olivia Giacomoto, who's a very special talent. And then when Electro House exploded, I'm like, this is going to become a disaster, And I walked away from it. We decided to be more underground. Again, I just proved it, and then I walked away. It's like, it's boring. Like, once you do something, it's boring,
Entonces él habla mucho, después de que tuvo este problema con el mundo underground, ¿cierto? Él dijo como, bueno, a la mierda, yo me voy a volver trendy, me voy a volver famoso, me voy a volver mainstream. Entonces lo hizo y se volvió productor. Entonces empezó a hacer éxitos, porque él decía...
Boring in the sense that I don't have to prove myself. I did it because I wanted to, but I don't want to do it anymore. I don't care.
Entonces él dice que él sacó y hizo 6 éxitos de Beatport #1, que entró a la lista del top 100 de los mejores DJs del mundo, se volvió súper famoso y ahí sí la gente empezaba como, bueno, sí, ya eres famoso, ya te podemos pagar, y el mundo underground decía como, ya sos muy famoso, te vendiste, ¿sí o qué? Entonces él le empezó a chocar eso porque él decía, parce, por ningún lado gano, por los 2 lados pierdo, ¿sí o qué? Por siempre estoy perdiendo, aunque estoy ganando más plata, y entonces empezó pues como todo el Electro House y antes de Mau y todo eso, pero ya cuando él vio que eso se iba a volver un movimiento gigante, él dijo, bueno, ya no quiero más esto porque ya se va a volver falso, quiero volver al underground, y ahí decidió volver al underground.
And when I came back a few years ago, because we started the fund and I started playing again, and it's funny, a lot of my friends, it's almost like, I don't look dead, but for the underground people, and I prefer to play, more underground music. And all my friends are like, where have you been? You're still pretty good. I'm like, I've been nowhere. I just, went somewhere else. Thanks for inviting me back. No, this is like, they're all my little brothers, and but it's fun. I have a role model sort of responsibility, and that's fine. But I also do whatever the hell I want as an artist. So as an artist, I still don't want to, like, I've never made my own album, okay? Like, I have my own problems, but they're not psychological that I need to go see a psychiatrist and I need to do a fucking album, I like to party on the weekend and I like to make people dance. I listen to Moody. I listen to aggressive rock and roll, post-punk. I love Killing Joke. I love the Sisters of Mercy. I was a goth. But that's my private life, you know. I don't need to show everything, you know, and I have nothing to prove.
Él dice mucho que él trata de hacer lo que le gusta, ¿cierto? Él le gusta es tocar todos los fines de semana, él no le importa como tanto ser el número uno del mundo, le gusta simplemente poner a la gente a bailar, le gusta todos los géneros pues como rock y como post-punk, etc.
But I have to say, so this year we started doing a weekly party in Ibiza called Acquaviva, and it's only in the daytime. And so in the daytime, I don't play any like techno or electronic music. I'll play soul and funk, I'll play reggae, I'll play anything. That's what Ibiza was about. You know, when hippies and other people were just enjoying music. And I started playing everything again. And so literally all of the people, you know, so Ricardo would come with his kids, you know, to the beach, you know, and we had Maher Daniel and, you know, the owners of Space. And I'm literally, you know, they bring their children, their animals, and I'm playing anything but dance music in the daytime. And that was cool. Because people I remember why I like music. It was a free party. We didn't charge anything like the other. It was like, you know, we could afford to do it, and we supported the community. And that was good, you know?
Que él dice que en Ibiza también tiene un evento que se llama Acquaviva, que es durante el día, donde no toca nada de música electrónica, toca funk, toca reggae, toca otro tipo de música y donde la familia puede ir, pues puede ir con los niños, con los perros, con los animales y simplemente parchar. Y él ni siquiera cobra por eso, él simplemente dice, yo quiero estar ahí, quiero apoyar a la comunidad, quiero tocar música y poner a la gente
People
a
couldn't
bailar.
believe that. So my resident, which is Malin of Hector. Hector is the road manager for Seth Troxler, and I know Seth since he was 15. I cook with his mother. You know, his stepdad Sherman is amazing. Sherman is one of my residents. So we're all family. He's like, Malin's like, I can't believe you're doing this. This is like anarchy. A free party in Ibiza? What the fuck?
Una fiesta gratis.
Think
en Ibiza.
about it. That's not very capitalistic. I could have made more money, but I didn't. That's not the point. You know, we all enjoyed music, and I could afford to. But even if you can't, everyone, it's just like you're invited. You know, come and enjoy. You need that sometimes. Not every time we live, you know, but it was good.
Sí, habla mucho que los amigos de él no creían que estuviera dando una fiesta gratis. Sí.
Don't tell anyone.
No le digan a nadie.
It's a terrible way not to make money.
Es un modo terrible de no hacer dinero. We have another question that is like, you have fostered a lot of new artists, a lot of new talent. You've taught them. You've accompanied them through their careers or foster them. What do you look in new artists or in new DJs or new talent?
Well, I'm not going in the studio as much, but with a couple questions. Look, you know, like you're here, everyone's got some level of talent. And, you know, sometimes I talk at schools and conferences. And, you know, look, my joke is I'm a stupid DJ, you can be one too, you know. But no, we all have some talent. So if I can listen and I have good ears, I'm going to hear where your talents are and I'm going to give you compliments, you know. Like the reality is in a creator market, all of us, if everyone in here had a business, currently less than 10% of the people would probably be successful or that even survive for a year. But when I go to a room, it's not to tell the 90%, you know, that you're going to fail. But if everyone is here and you just want to hear some stories or try to get some insight, you know, everyone, your opportunity is yours. You know, if I reply to one of you guys and give you something positive, use that. Or if I say you're never going to make it, use that, but I don't inspire people in a bad way. I don't want people to prove me wrong. But, you know, drive. And if I can be part of you, you know, and my joke is when everyone's famous, rich and famous, you can buy me drinks and dinner, okay? If I can help inspire you guys. So, you know, I do it in a simple way. And so a little or a lot, you know, that's our role as a community. Can you do nice things to your community? We're here to help each other, right? And the way I speak, you know, I think it's pretty consistent. Support people like yourselves. Even if they're different, they're actually more like you know, you are than pop culture, right?
Él habla mucho, pues no responde tanto como la pregunta como tal como yo hice, pero él habla mucho como de crecer como artistas, como apostarle mucho al talento de ustedes. Él dice que ojalá pueda inspirarlos, que él considera que el mayor trabajo que puede hacer él acá es contar sus historias y que esas historias sirvan de ustedes les sirvan a ustedes como inspiración o como guía para que ustedes creen su propia carrera, ¿cierto? Él dice molestando, cuando sean ricos y famosos, pues me invitan a comer por haberlos inspirado, ¿cierto? Okay.
I'm going to start a cult. Religion is tax-free, but that's a cynical joke. I don't believe in that, so I can't do it. But otherwise, I would.
Que va a empezar un culto con todos los que haya inspirado. What do you think of music markets, of this kind of events, music markets? Like this is a music market, what we have here.
I think conferences are very helpful to bring people together. You know, there's too many of everything. But I was saying again to Alexa, because we were coming in together, Colombia is one of the really special countries in the world that has more upside than down. You know, Colombia, I don't have to tell you guys about the history of Colombia. Terrible, tough history. But there's an energy. You know, it's got its problems, but it's better than the other countries. So Colombia is one of the stars of the world. So it's good to have a conference here. And usually the second city of a country is where the heart is, you know. So typically, I know I can handle the big cities, but, you know, whether it's Barcelona and Madrid or, you know, Montreal and Toronto, you know, Medellin is that more cultural heart, you know, even in, you know, Cuenca and Quito, for example, they have like a really cool, so great opportunity for the city, but also national and international. People want to discover Colombia. It really is a lovely place. It's paradise here, you know, it's affordable and it's cultural. So the opportunity is yours. And so then you have to have a vision of also exporting your culture, right? Every country imports culture. So, and this is something I told all my friends. You're inviting international DJs, but also export the culture. I told all my friends in Spain that. Stop inviting British DJs, you know, or as an example. You know, make Spanish stars, you know, right? And look at Spain now. So I worked a lot with the family of 4 generations of the Arnau family. And Juanito, I know him when he was a baby, he has El Ro. And they're exporting their concept. And that's fantastic. You know, so think about becoming original people, businesses, artists, and then export Medellin. It's not just the heart, you know, of Colombia, but it could be the heart of South America and more. Look at what Barcelona is. Everyone wants to discover Medellin. So there's your motivational comment about Medellin and this conference.
Él habla de que casi siempre la segunda, bueno,
so I will get drinks for free when I come back. I'm just joking.
Que él dice que los mercados culturales considera que son muy importantes y más que todo cuando son en ciudades como esta. Él habla mucho de que casi siempre en todos los países la segunda ciudad del país tiende a ser como la donde está el corazón. Entonces se hace referencia pues a Madrid y Barcelona o como acá Bogotá y Medellín. Entonces dice que acá en Medellín sí debería haber un mercado cultural.
You have to think big, you know. I mean, and you're not far away. Medellin has already improved itself, right?
Entonces él dice que
I'm not telling you anything you guys haven't done. Keep going, right?
Él dice que Colombia mundialmente es muy famosa y más Medellín, ¿cierto? Entonces que exportemos
Thank you for
Medellín.
inviting me.
Entonces él dice que exportemos Medellín y que él trata pues en los otros mercados de decir mucho, hey, no dejen de traer a gente de Inglaterra, traigan gente también de Latinoamérica, de otros lados, ¿cierto? Creen estrellas en español, ¿cierto? Vamos entonces con una última ronda de preguntas. Some questions from the audience, right? ¿Alguien más quiere preguntar algo?
John, you said, for example, the export people here in Medellin to the international other countries. For example, Natalie Rivera from Canada. I don't know if you listen to her, but for example, I would like to, in the future, in the near future, go to Toronto then, because I know that Canada in those recent years increased a lot of the music and helps a lot those genres about underground or progressive and that. do you think it's a good way from consolidate or start to bring a new talent Canada in this moment?
L'ultima frase.
Do you think, how can I say?
Just say it again. You moved your mic away from your
Sorry.
your. Yeah, just say the last part.
And do you think bring at artists in Canada or grow an artist in Canada in this moment is a great opportunity?
To bring a Canadian
No,
artist, or grow
what he's trying to say
Canada?
is that that he wants to move maybe to Canada to grow his
Well,
project there.
Actually, many people have to go away from home to become successful. Richie and I had to go into the world, and now in Canada never helped us because they were listening to Bryan Adams. You know, I haven't met Bryan Adams. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he did nothing for me other than make bad pop music, which didn't help electronic music. I'm just joking. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He sang vocals on Chicane, but whatever. So you do need to travel. You do need to travel to make. You're more respected at home when you do a project abroad. So when people in Canada, so when I was invited to do Canada, and they started opening the clubs, like Industry was amazing, and they're like, well, you know, you're Canadian and you should play. We love to have nationals. Nationals, I'm playing all over Europe. That's why you're calling me. We became really good friends, but I'm like, you're not booking me as a local because I grew up near here. You're booking me as an international DJ, so pay me the money. You know, I was always a good manager for myself. So yeah, go. Traveling the world gives you that credibility. So if you get invited or move, you know, a lot of people go to Berlin. They used to go to Amsterdam. They used to go to London. You know, a lot of people from Detroit went to Amsterdam and they went to Berlin, and they're like, wow, you're respected. So it's not a bad thing. It's most always a good thing. It's a sacrifice, and you know, keep the mic. Yeah. Oh, you are next. Okay, great.
Qué pena, antes de que sigas, quiero como resumir un poco la pregunta de él, que es muy bacana. Él dice que si considera que es buena idea irse a otro país como a crecer el proyecto, ¿cierto? En este caso él habla de Canadá, que en Canadá se puede crecer mucho el proyecto ya que hay mucho apoyo a la comunidad underground. Y lo que dice John es que sí, que muchas veces uno puede que crezca o que triunfe en otro país como él, que él le tocó irse a Detroit y en Detroit fue que él creció, ¿cierto? Y también que eso le da mucha credibilidad como DJ fuera de que permite el crecimiento, ¿cierto? Ahora sí.
Hi. You were talking about how cities which are poor and have a hard history as Detroit also have the biggest hearts for the music. So do you think that our history in Colombia, specifically in Medellin, also has an influence on making our crowd and in general the scene of electronic music so attractive?
Great question. It's not for me to really comment, but I'm happy to share some thoughts, maybe. I think, you know, from what I know, I meet a lot of people from a lot of the Latin American countries. Central America, even more tragic perhaps, but I mean, it's not a competition for tragedy, but South America is really good at it, right? With all the, you know, with all the autocrats and so you know, I'll answer it in a strange way. So I'm deep into philosophy, in case you haven't noticed, and I haven't really quoted any philosophers except for maybe one. And so philosophy is very painful because dealing with reality is painful. And so what happened in South America, and there, I knew I was going to do it, and I just did it, because I said to Alexa, I'm going to talk about Gabriel Márquez. So I'll answer you. So I got really tired of philosophy, because after you hit existentialism, it's like, wow, I don't believe in anything, the world sucks. But most people become evil, and that's not cool. So after the philosophers, people started putting philosophy into books. Like, I'm into Albert Camus, but I'm into José Luis Borges, magic realism. And so not everyone knows him. He didn't win the Nobel Prize for literature, and that's a pity. But he influenced everyone. And I was here at a conference in Cartagena with the government about lifestyle leisure, and I went through the house of Gabriel Márquez, you know. And magic realism takes pain and puts beauty into that pain. or that terrible repetition of the same old shit every day, okay? So to answer your question, it's the pain. It's putting a positive, face on that pain that allows you to go forward. And I think, using a local example, we're in the park named after, Marquez, and I can get even deeper into that. But that magical realism is what brings that heart and soul through the pain, So you don't have to go far to learn, and it's really absurd, the way. And I'm not going to quote it, I wish I spoke more in Spanish today, but we're talking heavy stuff. But I'm really inspired, and I listened to Jose Luis Borges especially, and he speaks like a machine in English and in Spanish. But I really want to learn Spanish. But then he speaks Argentine. I mean, just like English, Argentine is the worst of the Latin languages. Like listening to someone speak Scottish, vos, yeah. Anyways, I'm trying my best. So, does that answer your question? All right.
Bueno, para
See,
resumir,
I did it. I told you I was going to put that in an answer.
Vamos a con la última pregunta, pero para resumir un poco esta pregunta, ella lo que dice es como lo mismo que venía diciendo, que como los países que son de pronto afectados por la violencia tienden a generar como el arte más bello, y él terminó pues hablando mucho rato de Borges y de Gabriel García Márquez, y hablando cómo se crea ese realismo mágico, que es como ser conscientes de la realidad, pero ponerle como una cara bonita, o intentar volver hermoso una realidad cruda que como la de nuestro país, o la que ha tenido nuestro país, y que él dice que ahí es de donde salen las cosas más fuertes, y ahí es donde la cultura crece, y el movimiento y las artes siguen adelante. Hablo pues mucho más, pero para resumir. Última pregunta.
Hey, yeah, good chat. So, I run a little project called Medellin Studios, and I came down here 4 years ago and was completely just taken by this country. And I'm from St. Catharines, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just up the street, yeah. So what you said at the end there made me want to grab the mic and just kind of add something, or add some emphasis on that. What this country has right now is literally gold. Coming out of the gentrification of what's happened over the last 30 years, as like a student of emerging markets, traveling a bunch, on the road for most of my life. When I landed here, it was a no-brainer. I was like, this is the next spot. And I focused my business first on legalization of cannabis and everything that was exciting on that side, which was my background. And then my other background was music. I spent 20 years of my life touring with bands, doing the whole thing, Canada, all over the United States. And what I had identified was this obscene amount of unidentified alternative music. Like people that everyone was looking at Medellin specifically for reggaeton, and that's great. Anything that makes artists money, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's great, and this is the epicenter of it. It's hard to make a buck in music. So during COVID, we had a fairly large place up the hill. We got a big spot. And so I bought a bunch of instruments, invited a bunch of musicians up, literally just called it Artist Thursdays. If anyone knew anyone, come up, jam. It was free weed, tacos, and beer, allegedly. And so it worked out. What turned into what it is now was 15 or 16 people hanging out with like jungle marimbas and gaitas and drums and guitars and everything else, to about 50 to 75 professional musicians coming through a week. We built a full-on studio. We've recently had run the Jewels down here. We work with Sebastian Later out of Madrid. He's a good buddy. He was just recording with us last week. And I've turned my house into this artist residence, and essentially it's how I met Carlos and the guys that are running the Medellin Music Week right now, which I believe are just a round of applause, by the way, for Carlos and all these guys at Medellin Music Week, and Luisa and everyone. So to hear other professional artists come in and identify what they see, what Medellin could be, I just want to say I'm here and see what it is. And I think it's a really special city over the next 20 years. It could have a huge renaissance, similar to Berlin, similar to what happened in Buenos Aires in 2008. So I guess I just wanted to give some love back, and we speculating on that. I'm here as a Canadian and saw it, and it's we have a weird. You said about like money making, free shows in Ibiza. We got a really interesting value proposition and a in a business model at our studios, we don't charge artists at all. We're interested in making artist money, not taking artist money. And so everyone that comes up is just this free community. Because of that, we've got locked into this culture, and it's been awesome. Yeah. So word up. I see.
Great.
You.
Great.
Yeah.
Well done. And
yeah.
and yeah, I mean, a lot of things start that way. Money will come into it at some point, but it starts with the heart, and then, you know, just always try to be aware of the world we live in, you know. But it starts like that, and capture those moments and build on that.
Okay, listo. Yo creo que ya. It's been a delight. Thanks a lot for this
Great.
amazing time.
Thanks everyone for staying so late. But well, hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys later. And so don't everyone contact, but whoever you know, reach out to me. I'm happy to, you know, any businesses and stuff. I'll always give you a couple quick comments. But great to be here, and look forward to the event. And
Muchas gracias. Él dice ahí pues que cualquiera que quiera acercarse a hablarle de negocios, de lo que quiera, él está dispuesto pues como a hablarles, a darle su feedback. Muchas gracias.